Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to the Social Gazette, where legacy media meets a social media, where we ask questions that are decisive and that are frank, where we get to the meat of the issue and we speak on current affairs affecting Trinidad and Tobago. For our prelude episode today, we speak to none other than a former Member of Parliament for Tobago West, Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis, on her new chapter. What's next? What is to come? Join us as we have this conversation. Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis, welcome to the prelude episode of a direct discourse here on the Social Gazette, and thank you for being our first guest.
Thank you, Lavion. It's a real pleasure to sit with you as you introduce this project to Tobago and the rest of the world. Let me congratulate you on a job well done. I'm very, very proud and I look forward to all you have to offer.
All right, great. So we're going to dive right into the conversation. We're having a conversation, Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis, the new chapter. But before we get into the new chapter, I want to take a step back. And we're taking the step back right back to Monday, April 28th, 2025. Or rather, the next day, that will be the 29th. And your feeling after the general election, the election where we look at the screens and we saw Trinidad got yellower and yellower. And then we looked at the screens and we saw Tobago get bluer and bluer. I want to ask, what was your feeling the next day? Who was Shamfa Cudjoe in that moment on the 29th of April, 2025?
For the 29th of April, I woke up, I would say, at peace. At peace. There are many persons who ask, were you relieved? Were you in grief? Were you sad? And the answer is no, I was not sad. And I wouldn't call it relief. I would more call it peace. I went to bed on the night of the 28th, even in the midst of where the numbers hadn't totally come in as yet, and there were rumors you won, you lost, because the margin was very narrow on the night of April 28th. But I didn't stay up and watch the numbers all night. I went to bed at peace, knowing very well that I had given my best, knowing very well that for the 15 years I had served Tobago and Tobago West in opposition and in government, I had delivered to the best of my ability, knowing that I ran a clean campaign, a fair campaign. I was honest with the electorate. So when I woke up on April 29th and the results were, okay, the People's National Movement have lost, I had lost my seat, we had lost in Tobago, I said it is well. I love to say it is well because I believe that there is God in everything. And when the people have spoken, then God have spoken. So I feel at peace. I felt at peace and I still do feel at peace. I must say that there was a little worry. I felt worried for Trinidad and Tobago because I know that they had been tricked. I know that there were a lot of lies told, a lot of propaganda. Even when I was walking for election, there are some days I told my team, I don't think we're winning this, you know. And they were like, no, be positive. But having been on the ground for 15 years, you're hearing the feedback, looking at the message, the propaganda, the lies being told by those opposite. I'm looking at some of the demands of the electorate. The politics have changed, the electorate have changed. People were asking for some very strange things, and I was not prepared to lie for a vote. If I have to lie for your support, if I have to lie to you to represent you and to serve you, then I prefer not to represent you, you know, and not to serve you if I have to lie to you, if I have to trick you into that, you know. So I know that I ran an honest campaign. I was fair as it relates, and honest as it relates to running a clean campaign, and whatever the results of that was, I was prepared to accept it. So I feel at peace. I must say I was concerned about whether there are a lot of persons who left their permanent jobs in the public service to work with me, to rally with me, because they believed in my vision, they believed in the projects and the programs that I had established and implemented in the public service. So they came on to be a part of programs like Empower TT, I Choose Sport, Pink Rain Campaign, Boss Lady Project, programs that were introduced to the country for the first time that were really impacting people and changing lives. And I knew in this type of political climate they would lose their jobs. So there are a lot of them who had lost their jobs, and I worried as to whether those programs will continue. And today I can say some of them have continued. Of course, the new government will have changed the names
Right.
because Empower TT is now Man Up. Um, I don't see any signs of I Choose Sport, which was supposed to help the schools to develop a culture of sport and athletics and so on. There are a number of programs that have fallen by the wayside, but I'm happy that programs like Empower TT, Boss
It's
Lady
still
Project
there.
are still running, and
Right.
people are being impacted
Right.
by the work that I have done over the years. I'm pleased about
I
that.
know that. All right, so we're talking about 15 years because even with your response there shortly, you mentioned 15 years, at least about three times. So I want to hone in on that. That's that 15-year political career. We had Shamfa in the Senate. We had elected a member of parliament. We had tourism, a minister. We have minister of sports. But even if we take a step back to that speech you gave in Woodford Square that earned you the nickname Shamfire. So we had all these variations of Shamfa. Who do we have right now, just in this moment?
I would continue to be who I am. I think people get so carried away by the political figure, and there was a whole life before politics. I am always forthright, always brave, always saying it as it is, um, always a champion for people and a servant leader. I got involved in politics after being a youth leader. I used to be president of the Tobago Youth Council and CARICOM Youth Ambassador. I did some work for child rights, for the UN Child Rights Commission and so on. I've served as a UNFPA Yagi. I've done so much work as a youth activist. So that is who I am. I speak for the voiceless. I assist persons who need help, and that will never change. Leadership is not about office. Leadership is about your ability to impact people's lives, to take them to where they want to be, to help them see things that they wouldn't have seen on their own. So today I bask in the moment of getting to be a full-time wife.
Right.
Yes, because I got married in 2023, and I remember getting married on a Sunday, traveling back home from Barbados on a Monday, and on a Tuesday I was at work. So honeymoon, nothing.
Yeah.
There was no honeymoon at that time. So people don't recognize that when you're in public office, you give so much of yourself. They don't recognize it. They don't acknowledge it. You miss the children growing up. You miss your parents aging. You miss family events. You put so much of yourself, your health, everything on the back burner to serve people. And so now that I have some more free time, I get to catch up. I get to spend time with my mother, my aunts, my nieces and nephews. I get to spend time with my husband because I was living primarily in Trinidad, going back and forth, and he was in Tobago by himself. And I marry a countryman, and he's not a big fan of buying food, so he prefers for me to cook. I remember being a minister and having to leave midweek, come over, cook, go back down, and now I have the freedom to do what I want. I can travel. I have been traveling. I have been educating myself. I continue to educate myself and improve my qualifications and so on, because people always come to me as a source of advice, for training, for mentorship. So I have to continue to fill my cup. So over the last year, I've done some certifications, I've done some mentorship, I've done some coaching and consulting. I remember when I was returning home from doing a certification training to be a coach, a speaker, and a facilitator, as I'm well certified to be. Now, the political campaign was taking place in Guyana, and a political party called me and asked me to do some work with their candidates, and I did so. There are persons who reach out from St. Vincent, from different countries in the Caribbean. So I'm passionate about training young people, preparing them for politics, preparing them for leadership. Because when I started, I was 28 years old was when I became the opposition senator
Right.
for Tobago, and there were people saying she's too young for that. She don't have a track record in the PNM. She doesn't have what it takes. So I had to work and prove myself over the years, and there are some things I had to learn on my own. So for the young person who thinks politics is not for them, or it's for somebody else, or people from a certain class, I am here to break that and to just hold the hands of youth leaders
Yeah.
and let them know this is your time and this is your responsibility to take charge for your country and the direction of our development, and to hold their
Right.
hands. Yeah.
I want to come back to that, but I want to go back a bit and dive right into the thick of things. On the night of April 20th, 2025, as we are on the general election, that the People's National Movement resoundingly lost. I recall, and I speak candidly because this is what the Social Gazette is about. Our interviews are candid, decisive, and direct. I recall being a reporter for a local station, a local radio station that night. And so you're in the headquarters, and I was actually at the Tobago People's Party headquarters taking information to send back. And I recall a senior member of that party while the votes were going up and down. 1 minute Nutsi was on top, next minute Shamfa was on top, and it was a nail biting finish to the very end. But I remember hearing one of the persons there attached to the Tobago People's Party said, "Don't worry, we go beachy in Bethel and we go beachy up by Hochoy." And I never forgot that.
Yeah.
You know, just being a young reporter, that was my first election, and nevertheless, that is what happened in the end. There was defeat in Bethel and there was defeat in what we call Hochoy area up there in Golden Lane. So my question to you now is, with the results, do you take that as a rejection from the people? I mean, we look at the figures and we see that the figures were close. But how do you receive the results?
How I receive the results. Now, Bethel, first thing first, Bethel and Golden Lane are always very difficult. They have traditionally been anti-PNM for decades, for as long as we can remember. So out of the 8 electoral districts in Tobago West, I won in 6, but I lost in Bethel and Golden Lane area. And it has always been like that since before me. I don't think we've ever really in a general election truly won Bethel or truly won Golden Lane as it relates to a general election. The thing is that that just has been the culture in those two communities. It's very, very, very difficult to this day. It's very difficult to fight on a PNM card ticket in Bethel and in Golden Lane. Do I take the results as a rejection? No, because you see, when you know you have done your work, you have made your investment in your people, you have delivered programs, you have transformed the lives of people, then you give them the opportunity to choose. And if they want to try something different, then it's up to them. Yeah. And that is what democracy is all about. There is no one political party that wins every single election. And there is no one opposition party that remain in opposition all their days. So I go about my business each day and people come to me and say, oh, and try to give me a sympathy hug. I'm like, don't sympathy hug me, please. Because this is a part of the game. This is a part of politics. You win some, you lose some.
Right.
You go back, you walk, you listen, you strategize, and you come again. I tell people politics is like sports. You win some, you lose some. You go back, you train, you learn, you come back again stronger, better. And that's how it is. If you look at Trinidad and Tobago politics and Caribbean politics, the opposition would have its day again. And those in government would go back to opposition. That is just the way it is. It's all about listening to what the people are saying to you. And also looking at your camp and your strategy, because within my camp there was a lot of undermining. The PNM was fragmented. There still is some fragmentation taking place. You had persons leaking your strategy, persons selling, persons negotiating different prices to work
Wow.
with the opposition or work with those opposite. That had existed then in the general election. It existed in the recent Tobago House of Assembly election. And so these are matters that we have to look into as a party and figure out how do we how do we rebuild? How do we strengthen? How do we re-engineer the movement? How do we listen to what our members have to say, listen to what the people have to say, and be willing to make the necessary changes? In the People's National Movement, we like to say we've been here long and we have order and we have structure. But today's politics call for more than that. It's about strategy, it's about listening, it's about being willing to change some of those structures and some of those practices that you had won with over the years. For me, it's not a breakdown in the connection with the people, because I had my public days each week. I had different offerings to the public. I had a decent relationship with my constituents. For me, it's more of a breakdown in the machinery, a breakdown and fragmentation in the People's National Movement, a lot of undermining and infighting, and the public were listening to what they were hearing from the UNC and the TPP, and they felt like that message resonated with them. And it is their right to choose who they want to choose. It is their right to try somebody else. And if you understand time and seasons, you get to recognize it's their season. No matter how much you love summer, when the winter time comes, the season gonna change, and you're gonna have to put on your boots and your coat.
Right.
You know what I mean? So no matter how much you want the PNM way to be the way of doing things each and every day, you have to understand that at the end of the day, it is with the people, what they want to try, and we have to respect that. So it is the TPP's time and their season, but no season lasts forever. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So I'm pleased to see Tobagonians make their choice and live with the consequences of their choice. There are things that we can learn from the TPP. There are things that we can learn from Tobagonians in this current climate. And there are changes that we also have to make as it relates to coming back in full force. But I'm pleased, I'm happy, I'm learning, I'm growing. I like to say I am a student of the valley, or I'm a proud product of the valley. I think in the valley is where beautiful things happen,
Right.
and that is where change and strengthening happen. I entered politics in opposition. That was 2010. I entered in June 2010 as an opposition senator after the PNM had lost
Lost.
Patrick Manning and the whole Calder Heart issue in May. There were some persons who would boo at us when you walk in some places in Port of Spain. It was a very tough time. The media wouldn't even carry your stories. I remember being a senator, and when you prepare your speech, you had to also prepare a little media write up to make it easy for the media to want to write your stories. Like I had to almost write it for them. So we have come a long way, and the tides are changing rapidly. So it's about listening, it's about connecting, and being willing to re-strategize, re-engineer, reshape, research, and come again.
Right. But I know that you held portfolios such as tourism, you held also sports,
Youth and sport.
and I don't know if to speak directly whether or not persons, the average man on the ground understand the difference between portfolios that are more hands-on and ones that are more policy-based. And so when we say things like, we want to see our MPs, because you would have, as you said, you would have been in Trinidad a lot, and your portfolio would have been, especially in sports, it's a double fold. It's policy and it's hands-on. So you have to make the policy, you have to sit around the tables, and you have to get out there to launch these
Right.
different projects. Do you think that having to have to be in Trinidad, that going back to Trinidad, back and forth, were you able to stay connected on the ground? Or do you think that even if you did your part, did you think that that's how it was received on the people's part?
I think Tobagonians have to be honest with themselves as to what the role consists of. As a member of parliament, you're in the parliament, you're a minister. Also, that's for those who have a ministerial portfolio. Part of the cabinet, I was the sole Tobagonian in the cabinet for some time, a Tobago MP in the cabinet for some time. And you have to work coming to Tobago to be in your constituency. Every Sunday I was in somebody else's church, so I can even build a church relationship with my church because somebody's inviting you to different things
To come out.
on the weekend, different events on the weekend. Now, at the end of the day, it puts a toll on you. It puts a toll on your body. It puts a toll on your time because you have to attend to your ministry, you have to attend to the stakeholders in your ministry, and you have to attend to your constituents. Now, there are those who said cabinet is for China, or being in cabinet is not a beneficial thing. We get to see now more than ever how important it is to be a part of the conversation, so that a radar cannot appear in Crown Point and you don't know, people asking you questions and you don't know, your MPs don't know, they're not a part of the cabinet. Being a part of the cabinet is critical. If you're a part of the cabinet, you get to weigh in on the budget discussions. I remember the UNC and the TPP winning in April, and by May for the mid-year supplemental budget, Tobago was shortchanged 90 something million dollars. Now, if we're supposed to be getting 4% of the supplemental figure, right, of the supplementary figure, then we should have been getting 120 something million dollars. Instead, we got 30, I think it was $32 million, and we were asked to celebrate. And at that time, the MPs said nothing. We now fast forward to the October budget, and we got less money for development. And then we were asked to rejoice. But in a previous time, we would have been told that the development budget, we know that development budget is what is used to truly develop Tobago, and that is where we should be fighting to get an increase in allocation. But instead, we receive a decrease, and we were being told to celebrate. And it brings to the fore the importance of being a part of the conversation. You look at December and the matters relating to the radar, and we are asking our chief secretaries, we're asking our MPs what's happening, and they're telling you they can't tell you, they don't know, they read about it in the papers, and they're happy that the prime minister put it in the papers. That is utter madness. If you're a part of the debate, if you're a part of the cabinet, then you're a part of cabinet committees, and you're a part of the decision making. So I even look at the whole ferry matter, which I'm sure we'll touch at sometime. I was a member of the cabinet at that time. So that is why I can tell you, Fali, Chief Secretary left out a huge part of the story in his conversation the other day on the TV and his update. I said, but he's here telling Tobagonians that we had to wait 3 months. That is not so. Because the Superfast Galatia, that situation is so different from what we're facing now.
And I was actually coming. That is the next topic I was coming to. So you go.
So
continue.
The difference is the UNC and the TPP knew from since June of 2025 that the Cabo Star owners were not going to renew their contract. Yes? So that means they knew 6 to 7 months before the expiry of the contract. Yes?
Right.
So that gives you enough time to procure, to go do your trials, to go to wherever the boat came from, Germany or wherever, to see what it's like, to do your research and make sure the thing is in order. It gives you the opportunity to share information with the public and so on. This is not a last minute pullout like what happened with the Superfast Galatia. If you check the record, you check the newspaper clippings to this day, as it relates to the Superfast Galatia, they had a contract up to October 2017. They wrote to the government dated March 28th saying that they are going to pull out in 17 days. Yeah. In 17 days on April 14th. Yes? Right. So then the government challenged them saying, but you have a contract until October. So they were trying, we as a government were trying to get them to fulfill their contractual obligation.
Right.
Yes, this is also a matter where we were renting or leasing this boat from somebody who was renting it from somebody else. So those persons did not have full control. And they wanted the government to renew their contract for 3 years on a sole select basis. And the government said we cannot do that. The laws don't allow us to do that. If you try that kind of procurement, Trinidad and Tobago would hang you, as we say in Tobago. Yeah. And we just couldn't do that. But we had a 17-day notice dated March 28 that we're going to pull out on the 14th. In negotiation, they said they're going to stay on until April 21st. And by April 23rd, we had the Atlantic provider, which was the cargo temporary placement, because that is what we could have done in that short term. It was meant to be a temporary arrangement because we said we would go out for something proper. So we had the Atlantic provider, and we had the barge. I think the barge was called the Trinity Transporter or the Transporter. So that came into play 2 days after the Superfast Galatia left, while we were doing the procurement process for the cargo and ended up with the cargo Star. So to tell people that we waited for 3 months and Tobagonians were patient, that is far from the truth, because we know very well the swim and all the protest action and all the social media stuff. They even asked for Bridgman Services, who was in charge of the cargo Star, to come in and do a commission of inquiry. There were questions about procurement. Where are the questions about the procurement of this Blue Wave Harmony? Who owns the boat? How did this boat even come on our radar? How did we know about this boat? Who went to Greece or went to wherever to make sure that the boat was fit for purpose? And here we are today being told that there are sea trials taking place for over a month. Usually sea trials take about 2-3 days. And if we're
Viewers, welcome back to Direct Discourse here on the Social Gazette as we continue our conversation with none other than Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis, former Member of Parliament for Tobago West. And before we went for a break, we were talking about the inter-island fiasco. That's the current inter-island fiasco, the Blue Wave Harmony. So before we went for that break, Shamfa, we were talking about that, and we touched on Minister of Works, that's the line Minister, Jillian John. Now, I'm not sure if there were rumors before that she's trying to clear up these rumors that the shortage of food on the island, specifically food, of course there are the hardware materials and other items, but specifically food, which is going to affect each of us daily. And she said there's no backlog on either ports. She visited for herself, and she's going to visit later on in the night. I did see a video with her visiting the port last night. But then the chief secretary said that he has a team that is going to go out to find out, to get stats on whether or not Tobago could have food for 3 months just in case. So is it that the shortage is a backlog, or is it that we are able to feed ourselves or not able to feed ourselves for 3 months? Specifically to the food shortage, what is it, how you see that playing out?
Now, Lavion, I'll tell you. Whether the business people are lying or not, only the business people can answer that. And we as Tobagonians can answer too, because this matter has been going on since January. Yes, and we, as a homemaker, yeah,
Right.
as a full-time housewife at this time, yeah, I go to the grocery, and there are persons in the public. I can show you pictures on my phone right now. A person sending me empty shelves. So I noted that the chief secretary spoke about, well, there some people complained that there wasn't any snacks and there wasn't any chocolate, trying to downplay the matter. When you talk to business people, they are saying that they are feeling the pressure. They are saying that they don't have the goods. When you talk to the people in the construction industry, they are complaining. So I'm not here to have a battle of positions with Minister John. And at the end of the day, it's the business people in Tobago, the persons who are going out there, the mothers, the homemakers who are going out there and making their groceries, the persons who are building their homes, who are waiting on material, the tourists, the hoteliers and so on who are furnishing their places, because there were people who were trying to furnish to deal with the carnival crowd. They would tell you. Yes, they would tell you what they are actually facing. You know, when you're in government, because I've been there too, yeah, you want to listen to what the people on the port board are telling you and so on. But my mother has a saying, it's who in the kitchen that feel the heat. And we really have to listen to the persons on the ground who are out there facing the challenges each day. I just think that the government or chief secretary, the minister of works, the government needs to be honest and frank with the people of Tobago, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and tell us what's really taking place and why we're having over a month of sea trials. What kind of assessments were done before to make sure that the vessel was fit for purpose? When the over 30 areas of security concerns that highlighted that there was so much that was wrong with the vessel and the vessel was unfit and unsafe, and the public raised that matter, why was it just shoved to the side as, oh, that's Wikipedia mischief? No, if the international reports are saying there are 30 areas of concern, why wouldn't Trinidad and Tobago look into it? It wouldn't hurt us
But
to
even
look
as you
into it.
say areas of concern, because I do recall a local media house in Trinidad was the one that did an interview with two experts on that matter, and one of the experts did highlight all those issues. There are persons that are saying the Blue Wave Harmony came just in time in the height of the campaign, and it rhymed perfectly with the Tobago People's Party campaign, and so that is the boat that was selected. And some are saying, listen, the vessel is just old,
I think that
and not old in age, because there is the fact that it is younger in age than the Cabo Star. So old in probably structure they're talking about here. What are your comments on that, on the structure of
I
this
think
vessel
I
itself?
think we on the outside we could make all kinds of assertions, but I think the Port Authority Board needs to speak to us as to those technical matters. NIDCO needs to answer the questions being asked to NIDCO. When you ask Port Authority about what is taking place, they are saying, no, we were not involved. That is NIDCO's problem. I want to know, where are the technical officers from the port and from NIDCO who would have been involved in the procurement, involved in the assessment? Where are those people, and why aren't those reports coming to the fore? If the PNM were in power, you would have been asking questions about procurement. People would have been asking questions as to who is the agent. Who is the agent? Who is the agent? To whom does this boat belong? Who owns this boat? I remember people calling on Bridgman to come to Trinidad and Tobago to answer questions, and they are not asking those questions now. So here we are in this mess over a month now, and there are those who will tell you, well, the boat came in time. The boat came in time, but the boat cannot work up to today.
6 weeks.
Yeah, here we are, 6 weeks, and the boat cannot work, and we are asking important questions. I remember Trinidad and Tobago making a lot of noise and raising concerns, I should say, about paying $19,000 a day for the Cabo Star. Here we are paying $25,000 a day for the Blue Wave Harmony, which does not work. Yes, where the AC isn't working, the bow truss are not working either. Yes, we are doing over 1 month of sea trials. We are paying $25,000 per day. Are we still, while this boat is in sea trials and not doing what it's supposed to, are we still paying $25,000 a day? And I learned that we are now trying to, it has to be accompanied by a tug. Yeah, of course, you're not getting the tug free. You have to pay per day for the tug also. Yes. So the thing is unfit. And all sorts of dancing, it's being done to try to fix the things that are problems and so on and to mama guide the public. I think the same level of questioning that was given to the PNM should be given to the government. And I think the government has a duty to answer to the taxpayer as to what is really taking place. And here's the Truckers Association. Where is the chamber? There are some members of the chamber who are speaking out, but they are certainly not as loud as they were
Supermarket
in
Association, we
2017.
do have one of that here on the island. We haven't heard from them either.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, there are persons that are going to be viewing this, that are viewing us right now, and they're saying the People's National Movement has no business talking about the entire island. The People's National Movement was there for 10 years. Dr. Rowley, a Tobagonian, born and bred, was their prime minister 10 years. We should not be having this conversation if the People's National Movement had put things in place. And then we have the chief secretary reminding us of the Cabo Star that caught fire twice. I think it would have been 2023 August and then August again 2024. So what are your comments there? The People's National Movement should be
I love this question. I love this
anything
question
on this issue?
because, Lavion, let's be honest with ourselves. The People's National Movement, when we left office, we left 5 working boats. We left a fleet of 5 working vessels on the sea bridge. Yes? In addition to that, when we faced these challenges in 2017, the PNM went into quick gear towards procuring in a transparent process. Yes, we didn't have to wonder who was the agent or what type of procurement was done. None of that. Yeah, when we had to do an interim arrangement with the Atlantic provider and the transport barge, we did that. Yes, then we went ahead and purchased the APT James and purchased the Buku Reef. Yes, we secured the Cabo Star, the Galleon's Passage, and we fully refurbished the TT Spirit. The People's National Movement did that. Show me that record under the UNC or on any other government in Trinidad and Tobago. So the Rowley hate campaign could go on. Yeah, it suits some people, it excites some people. It's for the political expediency of some persons and their parties. But when you look at the facts, Lavion, it will show that the People's National Movement during our tenure, for the 10 years, we purchased through 2 world-class boats for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We secured the Cabo Star, which worked daily, which sailed daily. Yes, and now we are accepting sailing every other day or sailing whenever the boat works and sailing where people can't sail and sailing where your goods being damaged or spoiled and nobody is complaining. If we really want to make a comparison, when the people of Tobago, of Trinidad and Tobago called for Bridgman to come in and talk to the public, we brought in Bridgman for the Commission of Inquiry. There was also in the Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee, questioning the MPs and the ministers and so on. Where is that today? So if you're going to compare performance as it relates to the inter-island ferry and the sea bridge, no one party is perfect. The PNM is not perfect. There were many times of hiccups and total calamity, but we constantly work to relieve the situation. And even though we didn't bring in a boat that was as good as the Superfast Galaxy at that time, we had to do something. We couldn't leave the sea bridge with nothing. So we brought in the Atlantic provider and the transport barge, and we told the people this is a temporary situation while the procurement was taking place. in addition to that, when the fire, which was an accident, so we are being told to be patient for accidents under the UNC, but don't be patient for accidents under the PNM. When that happened, we brought in, I think it was the Empanadora or something like that as another temporary facility. So at the end of the day, for people to say this should have never happened and rowdy this and rowdy that, I think the people of Trinidad and Tobago, those who want to push that type of campaign, they would find any and every reason to blame Rowley. Look at the water going too hard in this waterfall. Somebody would find a way to blame Rowley.
Of course, I have to ask you this a burning question. I mean, both your supporters and your detractors are wondering. Is Shamfa Cudjoe-Lewis going to throw her hat in the ring in the upcoming People's National Movement Tobago Council internal election for leadership? I hope I said all the words that I'm pretty sure everyone is wondering.
I think I would say it in one of my favorite soca songs from one of my favorite artists.